Hi, and welcome to Top YouTube Metrics to Analyze. I'd like you to imagine something. Imagine that your video was published 3 hours ago and you've jumped onto your YouTube Studio page to see how things are going. The first thing you see is latest video performance and your video's thumbnail. Under that, you have a few metrics about that video. You take a quick look at views, CTR, and average view duration. Judging by the check marks and the arrows on the right, you can get a feel for if your video is doing well or not. Imagine further that your video just isn't doing that well. Or the opposite, if your video is skyrocketing and taking off. What do you do about that? Well, digging into your YouTube analytics will help you discover what's really happening and why. YouTube analytics is rather robust and takes a while to get used to and understand, but that's okay. What we're here to do today is to go over some of the most important metrics that you want to understand to get your videos off to a good start, and a few things to look back on so you can make future videos stronger. In order to do this, you'll also need a few videos already up on YouTube Live. Let's say about 10 videos. Now, if you don't already have 10 videos, don't worry, you'll get there soon enough, so just keep posting. But once you're there, this lesson will definitely come in handy. And keep this one thing in mind. All of us YouTube creators want to compare our videos against the competition, against other people out there on YouTube. But don't do that because their metrics are going to be different. Their variables will also be completely different than yours. Instead of comparing yourself against the competition, what you want to do is be your own competition. You want to improve a little bit with each video as you continue. And if you do that, soon enough, success should find you. My name is Cal. I've personally taken my own YouTube channel and I've reached the required 4,000 hours of watch time within a year, plus 1,000 subscribers for monetization status in less time with fewer videos than it takes the average person. Furthermore, my YouTube channel is dedicated to the topic of video production, and I want to take what I have learned through research and experience to help you make better YouTube videos. In this section, we're going to go over our mystery question. Then we'll look at what to do now with your videos. Third, we'll look at what to do later with your videos, and then we'll answer the mystery question. So stick around for the next video. I have a lot to show you, plus some valuable downloadable files that will really help. See you there. Are you ready for our final mystery question of this course? Well, it's an important one. In this section, we're going to go over a handful of metrics available on YouTube Analytics. And I want you to try and consider which are the two most important metrics that will help your channel grow. Yes, there are two specific metrics that are incredibly important for your video and for your overall channel's growth. Can you keep an eye out for what those two might be as we progress throughout this section? As usual, I'll give you the answer at the end, so let's jump into it. See you in the next video. So in this section on what you should do now really has to do with the first 24 hours of your video. Let's say from 3 hours after publishing, because that's how long it's going to take before you start getting data. And then about 24 hours, possibly 48 hours, but it's within the first few hours that are most important. So what you'll do, let's get onto YouTube Studio here, and you'll see this information as we just saw. This is your most recent video. Now, this is my data so far has been for 25 days, but yours is going to be for, let's say, 24. Let me just show you what we have here. We have ranking, number 5, not so great, but not so bad. Views, this check mark means we're doing okay, it's an average. My click-through rate is pretty good. It's above average, 8.1 at the moment, but my view duration is down. That's only because it's a short video. So what you would do here is go into your video analytics, and the first thing you're going to see is this graph under the overview tab. This graph is going to show you how well are you doing compared to past videos, the average. And the average here is in the gray. Now, let's go ahead This is for 25 days. If you go right up here, you can change the time period. Let's go to first 24 hours. In the first 24 hours, my view count is doing above average. So that's something positive. If you're below average, that's of course something you want to look at and figure out possibly why. It might be your thumbnail and or your title. That's the first thing you want to do. Number two, I want you to go over to the reach tab right here. And here we're going to look at two different things, impressions and click-through rate. Now impressions, this is the first 24 hours. Impressions, you'll need to look at your videos and look at past videos and see within 24 hours, what is the average? Now for me, it's 1,000 and this is 1.1, so it's doing slightly better. So we're doing about average with impressions. The second thing you want to look at is your CTR, your click-through rate. Now, earlier you saw it was 8.1. That's great. It got better because I made a change that I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. But my average for my channel is about, let's say, around 6%. If it was anywhere below 6%, then I'm going to consider making a change. And that's what I want you to do. If you have average impressions, but your click-through rate is doing well or about average, just let it sit. That's fine, you're doing okay. However, if your impressions are average or your impressions are lower than average, and your click-through rate is below average, then you're going to want to make a change. What that change is going to be is you want to take your thumbnail and your title and re-examine them. Start out maybe by switching your thumbnail, wait a few hours and see if there's a change. If not, maybe change your title, see if there's a change. And this sometimes takes 2, 3, or 4 times. So it's a good idea to have a thumbnail and a title, a second or a third option ready for you. That's what the pros do. All right, so if we go to our analytics, let's take a look. Since published, it took off. My video took off, it started doing very well. And then it started to dip into the average section. And around here, this is when I re-examined things. And let's take a look what I did. I changed the title. I kept the thumbnail, but I changed the title. So my suggested, this is the original title I had. This app does something special the others don't, and it did well. Then YouTube didn't really pick it up as much, so we needed to consider going to something more search-based. Then I put in this particular title. This app does one thing better than the others, and I put in Moment Pro Camera, which is the application I was using, and this is more search-oriented. And what happened was here it went from that 6 point something click-through rate and then started going up, and it's going up even more now to over 8%. So keep that in mind. What do you do when you have low or average impressions and a low click-through rate? Do something about your thumbnail and title. So what do you do later? This is really about at least 48 hours after you've published a video. Why? That's when you go here where we were earlier, your YouTube Analytics and your Overview tab. If you scroll down, you'll then see what is called your key moments for audience retention. This typically will not become available until after 48 hours. Now this is going to really help you for your future videos. What we'll do here is we have a few things to look at. Now, before we get up to this information here, which is really interesting, let's take a look at what generally a graph would look like. This is the graph that I have for our video, our example video. Now, I think it's done fairly well. It's only a 4-minute video, but it's done fairly well. Let's look at a few things. We're going to look at the first 30 seconds, then we're going to look at the graph itself, and then at the end, its tail off. This graph is, let's see, it's about half, 48.5% of people have watched the entire thing through, which is okay, but I would rather it be over 60%. Nonetheless, let's take a look at a few other graphs that I have for you from 4 other of my videos, and let's see what they sort of mean. Here's a graph from a 6-minute video, and it's not exactly level, but it's up and down. So we see a bit of a valley and then a peak. When we see something like this, it means that something from here, as it goes down, viewers lost interest, and then when it picks back up, viewers gain interest. Anytime you see something like that, these curves or sometimes these jig-jags, it's something important to keep in mind, because as the slope goes down, this is content that there's something going wrong there. You just want to identify and try not to repeat. And when something's going up, there's content here that your viewers are interested in. You might want to make other videos around that subject, something to keep in mind. Another graph here, now the difference here is, look at the time, it's 25 minutes. This graph is pretty typical of a long video. You'll start out, you're going to get something that crashes. Now I wish my first 30 seconds were above 55%. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what will typically happen, you'll get this sort of hockey stick, and it goes down and continues. Actually, this is one of my better performing videos. If you have a long video, this is most likely what it's going to look like. So don't worry. The longer the video you have, the more you're going to see this type of progression in a video. So keep that in mind. On the other hand, this video was only 2 minutes long, 60% retention, which is so-so for such a short video. But look how it sort of went straight across. This is really what we want to see in a typical video, if possible, around this 66%. If you can maintain that, fantastic. But look, we have a drop here and then a drop again. So what I've done here is I had signaled to my audience that the video was about to finish, so people dropped off. Keep that in mind. That's one of the reasons when we end a video, we quickly say, hey, next video, look at this, and done. You don't need to say thank you. Just have that end screen with another video and you'll get less of this drop off. And finally, this other video here. This video is 6 minutes, but look at this jig-jag up and down. This is a great indication of points of interest where people are sort of skipping. Now, remember in your description, you can put in timestamp. When you put in timestamps, don't make them obvious, make them have some degree of intrigue so people don't skip around too much. But what's happening here, as you can see denoted by these dotted lines going up and down, people are skipping from one section to another, and most likely they're going back to watch this particular part again for if it's, for example, if it's a tutorial, they'll want to see that information again so they understand it. So these are the typical graphs that you'll see. Ones that I don't really have to show you are ones that really just slant down. If they just go straight down, well, you're doing something wrong and you want to see why. Okay, having said that, let's go and look at the top. You're going to see these 4 things most likely. You'll always see intro, but you might see spikes and you might see a dip. We'll see. We have all 3, so I'll use this as an example. Worked out well. The intro is the first 30 seconds. This is crucial. If you can get people to stay above this line, let's say above 66%, you have a much higher chance that they will continue to be engaged in your video. So really focus, of course, focus on your thumbnail and your title, get that click, then really work on your first 30 seconds. So this video has performed well. We've got 70% retention for the first 30 seconds. Great. Another interesting thing is I've got spikes here. This means areas that people found interesting. What I would want to do and what you would want to do if you have these, go back in here, click on them, and then replay. Get stuck stunning time lapses at night and stick. This will tell you, this will start to give you some information, some ideas of what you're doing well. And it all depends on your videos and what you're doing. So keep that in mind. I'm happy that I have 4 spikes, but I do also have a dip. A dip is of course the opposite. Right here is YouTube is considering a significant drop off. Now let's take a look. What am I doing wrong? Dips are things that are turning your audience off. Now, I think I know what I'm doing wrong. If we look at this, if we scroll in a little bit, I'm going to push play. Look at my eyes. Only while I show you what's so special about the Moment app. All right, that looks a little, to me, I don't feel that I should look that way. It looks a little arrogant to me. I feel that way. So maybe I shouldn't squint and say blah, blah, blah. That's sort of maybe not authentic. Understandable. But the rest of this looks okay. And notice at the very end, there's just a quick dip. It's not dipping any earlier. That means the viewer is still interested in the video and I have not signaled the end yet. So keep these things in mind. Your key moments for audience retention is a fantastic graph for you to understand what you're doing well in your videos, what you're doing poorly in your videos, and things that you can improve upon. So once again, really focus on that first 30 seconds, then take a look at your spikes and your dips so you know what to do for future videos. So, have you guessed which 2 metrics have the greatest influence on your videos regarding YouTube? Well, those 2 metrics are number 1, CTR, your click-through rate, and number 2, average view duration. Remember that YouTube essentially wants to do 2 things. Number 1, YouTube wants to serve up the right videos to the right people. And number 2, YouTube wants to keep those viewers watching as long as possible. CTR, or click-through rate, is essentially when a viewer is shown your thumbnail and title, what percentage do they actually click on your video? So if you're not getting clicks, essentially everything else is a waste of time because viewers are not watching your content. So spend 2 to 3 times more than usual on your thumbnail and your title. Next, average view duration is obvious because YouTube will reward videos where people are watching or spending more time. You'll see that as your videos increase, whatever videos you make, as people watch more time on each video, YouTube is more likely to promote it. So the question might be, what's the best length for a video? And that really depends. It depends on niches, it depends on topics, and it depends on channel. What works for me, usually what I found, is that if I have a video that's around 10 minutes, it's going to do fairly well. My shorter videos don't do as well, my longer videos do, but if they're too long, people might lose interest. It depends on how skilled you are at keeping people's attention. So in essence, you'll just have to experiment with time. So work more on these 2 metrics and dive into YouTube analytics and learn as much as possible, get familiar with it, get comfortable with it, because it is worth the time and effort. People are always curious what a good click-through rate is, but remember that we should be comparing our own click-through rates against ourselves, not others. So, in order to do that, we want to find our baseline CTRs, and we'll do this for search traffic and suggested traffic. Once we have those numbers, you'll be able to compare future video CTRs and identify if those videos are doing well or not. In order to do this, you want to find the top 10 most recent videos that you've published. If you don't already have 10, that's okay. Just use as many as you currently have. For each video, you want to find that video's click-through rate within the first 24 hours. In order to do that, simply go to your studio page and choose your top 10 videos. And I'll just choose one for example. Click on the analytics button here. And once you get into analytics, go ahead and click see more. And then we want to go to our traffic source right up here at the top, traffic source. And remember, we want to do the first 24 hours. So let's go over here and click not since published, but the first 24 hours. And we only want to look at two features here. One, YouTube search, and the other, suggested. Now let's see, there's a significant difference between these two on my video here, which may be the case with you as well. So this video is definitely better with search, 14.3%, which is really high for me especially, and suggested videos 1.1%, which is very low. But what we want to do is take these two numbers and enter them into our spreadsheet. And again, you want to do that with your top 10 videos. So let's go over to our spreadsheet. Now this spreadsheet is available to you by simply clicking on a link, which will take you right here to Google Sheets, or you can open up the Excel file. They're both really the same. Now I've already entered data in here. These are not my real numbers, but they're just to demonstrate how they work. And all you need to do is type in your search click-through rate for video 1 and your suggested click-through rate for video 1 as well. And once you do that, this will automatically populate down here below your average CTRs. So the average search CTR is 5.76 and suggested is 3.15. So now you'll know in the future when you publish in the first 24 hours, if you are significantly below these numbers, especially if you're targeting search or you're targeting suggested, you might want to change a thumbnail or title. If you're about on par or if you're above, well then, congratulations, you're doing well. Then, once you have your baselines, share them with us here on Skillshare. Simply take a screenshot or a photo of your baseline numbers on that spreadsheet and press the Create Project button to upload. Also, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being my student. I hope you continue learning, and I hope to see you again in another class if possible. Take care. See you later.